Good morning. Is it still morning? We got a little late start today, but I got a lot going on. Lots of phone calls, lots of people I got to talk to, all kinds of different issues happening in Lisle. Caused a couple stirs, but those stirs are making a positive change in the village of Lisle, which is what I hope you guys like to see. Sometimes it ruffles a few feathers, but you know, once those feathers are ruffled, sometimes you got to have someone there to smooth them out. And that's the name of the game, is we are trying to fix some of the wrongs that have been going on in town. Sorry if you can hear my phone vibrating. I'm getting a phone call. Let's see. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. I did a couple of videos this week out in the streets, boots on the ground activism, which we're translating into local political issues. It's nice to hear that people are watching these videos, because these videos are making them their way back to our staff and saying, hey, look at what Steve Winz is pointing out. And then people seem to be getting directed to go take care of some of those issues. So when the things that I'm bringing up are getting attention, and that's the goal, right? Attention Lisle. That's everybody. It holds me accountable. It holds the community accountable. It holds staff accountable, and other elected officials. So I like to see it. I get a lot of calls lately that are like, man, it almost seems like the other elected officials and like Lisle Watchdog just watch what you're doing and then comment and share and almost verbatim repeat what you're doing. So that's good. You know, what's that? Mockery is a form of flattery. So I don't mind. I welcome it. At least it's getting you guys actually doing something. You know, the Lisle Watchdog thing is interesting. They shared a post about my video that I made yesterday at 5100 Lincoln Avenue. And, you know, it's too bad. Like, sometimes I'm so hopeful for the Lisle Watchdog page, you know, when they like that, like that's a good thing to do. Is I made a comment about a piece of property. They're a watchdog. That's what they should be doing. Hey, let's talk about this property. Let's watch it. It's 100-year FEMA. You know, they put some verbiage to the things that I'm trying to spit out of my mouth while I'm making a live video. And sometimes it's difficult to, in the process of making these live videos, to remember the exact phrases that you are hoping to, you know, spit out to the community. So that was good that they responded that way. That, like I said, that's when I'm hopeful. But then other posts they make, they're terrible. They're terrible the way they're treating people that are working in this community. They're making generalizations, broad generalizations, putting pictures of other elected officials and staff up on their page and making a generic accusation that protects them legally They're really just promoting their group of people that they're going to be running for the Lisle Park District. And that's too bad. You know, if you're part of that, if you're part of those people and you want to separate yourself, now's the time, because that's unfortunate that they would write those articles that way. I don't think it's fair. We got a lot of community members that are working real hard to get things done around here. And just because you don't agree with how they do things doesn't mean you have to attack them. And that seems to be a trend that happens a lot. I've experienced it this week hard, from people who call themselves my friends, from people who claim that they are going to be kind, that they're going to run good campaigns and clean campaigns. Thank you to those people that came to my defense. Politically, it's not something that I really want to discuss. But I'll tell you what, blaming victims is never a good thing. And if somebody's been a victim of a crime, and you're going to try to insinuate that that victim is somehow guilty of doing something, that's a terrible shame. And the fact that those people are trying to blame somebody who's a victim in something is that's a terrible thing to do. And I can't believe that this is what you would claim we need to be as a community. We need to be Lisle that's going to blame a circumstance like that. That's extremely unfortunate. That being said, whether you're labeled a victim or not, I don't typically feel like a victim. Not at all. You know, I guess there's a school of thought on how people approach life in this world, and I guess it bleeds into politics. I was bullied extremely hard when I was in the 6th grade. I think I've mentioned it before, and it was really bad. You know, it led to my grades falling. It led to me trying to hurt myself for attention. But at the same time, I was a growing young man, and I had a choice at that point to remain the victim or to take things into my own hands. And, you know, it didn't seem that it was getting resolved any other way. And so the solution was to no longer be bullied. And fortunately for me, I was becoming about a 6-foot tall 7th grader and wrestled 190 pounds in the 8th grade. And so things quickly changed for me when people realized that I may not be the best person to go bullying. And what ended up happening was I became an anti-bully for a lot of people. I'm actually thankful for the fact that I was bullied so hard. What would happen to me is I would actually get on the bus, and somebody contacted me this week, actually. They had a health scare, and they've been going through a real hard time. And it was interesting, in the middle of all this political stuff that I'm going through, and people are trying to claim that I'm a bully, that this person had a health scare, and they had to have some serious treatments. And I believe it put a little mortality in their perspective. And so I was contacted by this person who I consider a friend. I love him, actually. We grew up, and I put a lot of that stuff behind me, but he had guilt that he carried around with him. I mean, this is 30 years ago. This was when I was in the 6th grade. I mean, what are we talking, 1987, 88, something like that. And this man is now 45 years old, and was carrying this burden of guilt that he had bullied me when I was a small child. And we had even become good friends in high school. And he contacted me through Facebook Messenger and apologized and said, you know, what did he say? He said that he never felt right. He should have never done it, and felt terrible, and he was sorry. And I said, that's all right. You know, because there were times later in his life that he was getting bullied. And I told him, I'm like, you know what? I call myself an anti-bully, but popularity back in those days scared me too much, you know, to come to defense of somebody that was my friend. And, you know, he probably could have used it. He ended up being okay. He took care of himself pretty well, but he was getting bullied pretty hard around his sophomore year in high school. And we both grown into men that don't get bullied around very often. So the reason I bring it up is we have choices of who we want to be in life. And since those first 6 months of me being bullied that way, I made a decision that I wasn't going to be bullied like that. I wasn't going to be the type of person that when bullies were around, that I walked across and walked around them, walked to the other side of the street and pretended that they weren't doing something wrong and something bad. And so I've turned into the man that you watch on these videos. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the mayor. I don't care if you're a sitting trustee running for mayor. I don't care who you are. If you're a bully and you're going to try to bully people, you have found the anti-bully. I don't care if you do it passive-aggressive ways, because so many of the people that bullied me, it wasn't physically bullying. I would get on the school bus, and I was the last bus stop, as that bus would roll through Oak Hill, come down Ohio Street, and cross the light. And my parents didn't know, but I'd sit down there at the end of the street and wait for that bus, and dread it. I cried in front of those kids a couple times. And I'll tell you what, I don't cry very much anymore. I don't know the psychology behind that, but it hurt. And the more I cried, the more it hurt, the worse they got. So I learned not to cry, and I toughened up, and I became what I think people call right now rough around the edges. But I'll tell you what, I wouldn't trade it for the world. Because I was bullied, it probably saved me from becoming a bully. It really did, because those were the people who started bullying me were some of my best friends. And it hurt. It hurt real bad. And I don't know how it happened. I'm not blaming them. We were kids. We're over it. I'm friends with a lot of them today. So it's cool, man. I mean, they're kids. I forgive every one of you. You know, whether you've called me personally or not, it's not like that, man. I love you guys. I really do. I care about you. It's cool. But it did change me. 100% it changed me. There's certain things about me where I think I have residual effects from that, you know, and one of them might be I'm a little rough around the edges. You know, if somebody comes at me, you can hear the passion in my voice. I get a little bit wound up, and that's how I feel about Lisle. I am not going to walk across the street if there's somebody doing the wrong thing. I have become if you see something, say something individual. And there are people, and I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of them chime in about their experiences with me in high school when they were being bullied, and they came to me and some of our friends, and we stopped that bullying. When teachers and administration were limited on how they could handle certain things, the offensive line of the Lisle football team wasn't limited in the same way. And we made sure the bullies were quite aware that they wouldn't be bullying this person anymore. And that person tells me regularly how it changed her life. So I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry if criminals are occupying a space and telling people of Lisle that they're not allowed to be in that space, especially if these criminals have recently been involved in heroin drug dealing. There were some really violent crimes that some people were involved in. And I'm not the type of person that walks to the other side of the street. I'm this type of person. Where did I put it? I put it up here after the insult came out. I'm this kind of guy. The High Plains Drifter. 1973, I believe that movie came out. I was so mad when my brother would make me watch it. I didn't like it. It was old Western. I didn't want to see that. I wanted to watch like cartoons. He-Man. What else was I watching? Spider-Man was awesome. The Transformers. It was great. But I watched the High Plains Drifter enough to see the hero would come to town and clean up the town. And so, you know, That's who I am, man. Well, not a hero necessarily, but I care, and I'm not walking away. I'm going to deal with stuff head on, and at the same time, I'm going to grow. I don't deal with things the same way that I used to. I got into running for office, you know, telling someone they're a bully and then actually getting the authority to stop criminal activity and things like that from happening. You know, that's what I've done. And I'm here to protect Lisle. I've had some experiences that have shaped me, and let's call it Winz 2.0, 3.0. I'm always want to be updated. You know, I always want to grow. There's versions of me that have been deleted and replaced with new versions. And I think you're going to like the new versions. Every new update from this point on is going to be an improvement. It's going to be to help the community. It's going to be to help the village of Lisle. And, you know, so I can get off of that subject now. My feelings were really hurt. And it's hard to even say that my feelings were hurt. You know, I've got a little too much of that. I don't know what it is. I don't like to admit that people hurt me. And I'm working on admitting that, you know. When a friend who you helped to get to where they're at hurts you, you know, tries to hurt you, you know, it hurts. It hurts. But thank you to all of you friends that stood up and came to my defense. I think some of the things I was saying, I had assumed that what happened to me a couple weeks back was the same person. And I think that kind of put some clarity to it. We know what people are up to, and that it's just different than me. You know, I've never been at work. I've never been somebody who tries to put someone else down in order to elevate my position. I'm just going to work hard. I'm going to bust my ass, and I'm going to work hard, and I'm going to be the best that I could possibly be. And if there's somebody next to me that's got more skill or works harder than me, then they're going to be better. They're going to hit the top of the podium, you know, and I just have to keep working harder to get there. But kicking the chair out from underneath them so I can have that spot on the top podium, that's never been who I am. You know, the Tanya Harding, no, you don't do that. You get better. You work harder. You become a better person. You don't try to throw the person under the bus next to you in order to get the top spot. It's just not how I operate. You know, we work harder than that around here. That's what being Lisle is. You remember that you worked hard. You were taught to work hard. You didn't cheat to get there. You didn't try to hurt somebody to get there. You just did the best that you possibly could. And that said, there's no holds bar when it comes to policy. None, especially now. You know, there were things where I question, you know, like how I can approach the fact that there's certain people in town that have had visions. I mean, you'll hear about it. I'm going to be talking about it. There are people in town that think the mayor of Lisle should be in charge of District 202 school board. They are running with a full slate. This is a position that has been held by the head of this group for, I don't know, at least a year. I don't know what they're going to do. You know, I believe they're getting help from some school board candidates, which makes me nervous. You know, I look forward to the petitions being filed and seeing who's on their team. You know, who is circulating petitions for this group where people have held the position that I think could definitely affect the way District 202 is operated. You know, it will give them the ability, it would give them the majority of the board to start discussions on a state level. And people should be very, very concerned with anybody who has held any type of a position that the hierarchy of the school board should be changed to the mayor of Lisle being in charge of it and the village board. But those are policy issues. That's fair game. You want to question my policy? You want to question my choices of what I think and what I do when it comes to governing? 100%. And that's fair game. So I just don't believe that I believe that the two entities should be completely separate. I don't believe that they should merge like that. I don't believe Lisle will work that well. I've never held that belief. I don't think you ever should hold that belief. So we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. But, you know, I mean, hopefully everybody gets the message how much that could change things. What else do I want to talk about? I want to get back to me being positive, me working to get to the top of the podium and not talking bad about somebody else. But sometimes you have to go down that road to, you know, make sure people get the accurate story. So where are we? Let's see. I did the video over by the Hyatt. There was a couple more things after watching the video I wanted to kind of discuss real quick about that, to reiterate and bring up a new point. I kind of mentioned it. Did you see all the work that was done around that place? Somebody had mentioned that they had to go there and actually repair those lights. So your taxpayer dollars, there's a road. That's a street. That's a Village of Lisle street, Middleton, that goes around what was supposed to be a development. Those are lights that are run through there. That's city water that is run through there. That stuff has to be kept up. Excuse me, too much coffee. And, you know, that stuff was put into place because they were assuming the development was going to come in. Well, because it's OR, it's zoned OR, it may be hindering that. But so that was a nice little video. I had fun. It reminded me of how fun it is for me to be out there doing those videos. So then I did another one. Somebody had asked me because one of these groups had mentioned that little daycare thing. It's not a daycare. It wasn't a daycare. Someone tried to turn it into a daycare. And like the Lisle Watchdog pointed out, it's on a 100-year floodplain. According to FEMA, that building is supposed to follow a certain rules from the emergency management. And they pointed out, I disagree with some of their math. I'd have to see exactly how it works. I think they said something to the effect of the property has now been assessed at $100,000. And if you can only put $50,000 into this remodel or else you're not falling under their code. But the property at one point was $450,000. So the fact that it's now been assessed less because of the FEMA floodplain, there's probably a gray area on that. So I don't know if I agree with that. I'd have to look closer at how that rule is actually written with FEMA. But so that's an interesting thing. And like I said, that's good. So whoever is operating that portion of the Lisle Watchdog page, I appreciated that part because it creates commentary. It creates discussion. That's how we get this done. You know, you can't do it by yourself. It's too much work. 700-page documents on rewrites. That's another thing I want to talk about. Comprehensive land use maps. So we're talking about a rewrite in planning and zoning, and planning and zoning sent that back to village board, but it didn't get put on the agenda by the mayor. So at our next village board meeting on Monday, we're not even going to have a chance to talk about what the planning and zoning rewrite should look like, a little reevaluation. I don't want to remind everybody who's watching and asking like, oh, well, what are you actually going to do for Lisle? This is what I'm doing for Lisle. This is it. We had a conversation about planning and zoning and about the rewrite. Next thing you know, planning and zoning says, hold on, let's take a step back and let's look at this rewrite. Let's get another evaluation from the village board and make sure we're doing what's necessary. That's a good move. And for whatever reason, that didn't get put on the agenda, and that'll be delayed where it really shouldn't have to be delayed. I don't know. Maybe it does for staff to have a chance to write something up. I'm not certain, but regardless, what I'm doing is getting things done. We are evaluating our rewrite. We're saving 6 figures for sure on what it would cost to have an outside firm come in and do that rewrite for us. There was some talk about the comprehensive land use. If you go and you look at the village website, the comprehensive land use map was last updated in 2004. And one of the first clauses it says in there is that this should be updated every 5 years. Well, how are we supposed to write a planning and zoning code if that is out of date, if the comprehensive land use map is out of date? So it becomes a question of the cart before the horse. I think people on planning and zoning would like to accomplish finishing this rewrite. I appreciate their ambition and wanting to accomplish that. That's good that they want to succeed. But my concern would be that we might rush through important pieces. So we want to get it right. If I become the mayor of Lisle, I want all the T's crossed, all the I's dotted, and I want to make sure when a petitioner comes in with an idea for a project that it is written correctly, that if they need a special use permit, the legal terminology is put in place to make sure that it can't be argued against, or the village could find itself in litigation because they denied something because we had written this planning and zoning wrong, or our comprehensive land use map. So this is important. This is going to be part of my platform. I imagine after these conversations, it's now going to be part of other people's platforms. You've probably never heard the words comprehensive land use map before I just said them to you, but I bet you're going to start hearing them now. The people who say that they know how to do this seem to be watching this video and then going and doing something else. And you know what I think is funny too? I just got to make a joke about it. My gosh, there are more posed for pictures coming out of one of these groups than I have ever seen in my entire life. You know, one of them without a mask on in a public place. By the way, if you happen to be somebody who supports the use of masks in public places, I'm looking at pictures of candidates sitting in public places conveniently. Like it's just so, I'm sorry. I don't, it's the joker in me. It's the one that wants to tease and laugh. Someone who used to be my friend, someone who I considered a friend. I guess we're not, but you know, if you're going to take shots at me that are just downright mean, I can at least tease you. It's like wherever you guys go, there's a camera pointing at you. This is me walking up the stairs delivering a pie. Just so happens someone took this candid picture of me. Look at me sitting at the table in the coffee shop, casually writing in this book, and somebody just took my picture. It's like we're on the cover of a catalog or something. This is the village of Lisle. I don't know. This is the image of being Lisle. Photo, taking pictures. I like seeing pictures that, you know, people got to pose for them and stuff like that, but it just seems so odd to me. It's uncomfortable and awkward. I feel uncomfortable and awkward for them when I see it. I don't know. Maybe some of you feel uncomfortable and awkward for me as I'm talking here. What else happened? Oh, this guy was cool, man. I knocked this door and this guy, Mike, I think I mentioned something before. This guy, Mike, wrote something to me. He's been following the rewrite in planning and zoning, and he had a couple concerns. And one of them is neat. I think it's chapter 16. Chapter 16, architectural standards, if anybody wants to go and look. And one of his points was, I think it's a valid point. We had a good discussion about it. It's called an anti-monotony provision. And in the anti-monotony provision, basically what they're trying to accomplish is of stopping these cookie cutter type homes in subdivisions, you know, so where you drive down the street and you can't, and you look at the same garage door, the same framework, the same awnings, the same windows over and over and over again throughout the entire neighborhood. We have a neighborhood like that now, a couple of them, but, you know, they still look real nice. But in the future, I think this is written to prevent that. The problem that I see with that is this looks like regulation that will make it difficult on custom home builders, more expensive for architecture, more expensive for these builders to accomplish these things. They're depicting how many, it's called a hip and a valley in the construction world. If you're building a house, if you're building a roof, you've got a hip and a valley and a ridge, which way your rafters are running down, which side of the house, gable ends. And what they're doing is they're saying that you can't have so many of these similarities within a certain range of other homes that are built. And this prevents big subdivisions coming in and all the houses looking the same. So I agree with it in that case. The problem is in Lisle, we are pretty much landlocked. There aren't a whole lot of places that are going to be building huge subdivisions all at the same time. So this anti-monotony, while it might be necessary in communities like Plainfield or Naperville, which still might have farm, man, do they even still have farm property? I don't know if they do. But so in Lisle, most of these custom home builders are going to come in and now they have to follow this anti-monotony rule, which shouldn't really exist if you're doing a tear down and a rebuild, you know? So that was the concern. And I appreciate that. What did he write here exactly? What's the quote? I could understand requirements like these for developers of subdivisions, where they would be tempted to push out dozens of cookie cutter homes to cut their development costs. There, in that situation, regulations like this might make sense. And that's a very good point. And what we're trying to do in Lisle, under my leadership, I guess, is figure out ways to make it easier for builders to do this work. Yeah, I'm going to go. I'm going to let you guys go on that. Pay attention to the zoning rewrite. We're going to be talking about it. I think I'm the right person to have in the position come April when we have these elections. I think that I should be the choice to be your mayor, and then we'll make sure that these planning and zoning updates are done in a manner that makes Lisle a little bit more business friendly, a little bit more development friendly. And we should also be updating our comprehensive land use map. You know, so that's a goal of mine. I have to start getting this stuff out there now, because it seems anytime I touch on it, the next thing you know, another candidate is repeating what I'm saying, and or even creating a podcast that looks awfully similar to what I've done, you know? So I don't know. Anyways, sorry. Get down that road. It's a bad road. Stay focused on what you're doing is what I keep telling myself in my head. Don't worry about what anybody else is doing. You do the right thing every time. Every chance you get, just try to do the right thing. Try to do the right thing. Try to improve. Steve Winz 3.0. Maybe we just had a new update. All right. So thank you, Lisle. I hope you guys get a chance to take a look back at some of this stuff, and especially when other people start writing it down as their platform. You heard it here first. Everybody wins. Everybody wins with a comprehensive land use map update, with the planning and zoning rewrite. You know, and we don't need to rewrite the whole thing. You know, there's portions of it that are fine, but we need to get in there and we need to find the nuts and bolts that are causing developers to walk away from Lisle. And we don't have a whole lot of space to develop, you know, so we need to make sure when we get someone that comes in here and wants to develop it, we're ready to go. They're ready to go, and they're dealing with professionals. And that's what I'm going to bring you. Lisle, we have a lot of professionals. We have a lot of good staff members that are doing fine jobs. We need to give them the tools to continue that work and to improve that work and to make the next step. All right. So I'm going to go to lunch, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for participating. Please send me more private messages about pieces of property or concerns you have, and I'm going to go and take a look at them. The weather's been great, you know, for Christmas. It's been all right being outside doing some of that stuff. All right. So thank you guys very, very much. And why don't you listen to some of this fine folk music to take you out.